We tested this today, we tested it the other day. Not to worry. Everybody, thank you so much for coming, particularly as it's nice out. So I really appreciate that you're here. And what I would like to do actually is to get a bit of a show of hands. I wonder, can I see you all? I don't have a gallery view, so I will get you to use the chat function. I'd love to know, what is it that attracted you to this particular webinar today? So do you feel like you have a problem with your phone? Are you, or have you heard a little bit about digital detoxes before? Is it that you have a problem with sleeping? Pop something into the chat box so that I can find out what it is that you guys, yeah, what's brought you here today?
Sorry, just to interrupt there, that'll be the question and answer feature, because we've the chat is disabled here. So pop it into the question and answer feature. Yeah.
No problem. Into the question and answer. Great. La 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 la. If I was a better singer, I would sing for you guys. Actually, Karen, is there a way for me to see everybody's, all the attendees? Because then it would be really quick, actually. Thanks, Grania. I love that Grania is curious. Curiosity is always great.
We're in a webinar feature, so you can't actually see the participants.
That's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. Well, we have a self-confessed addict. I love when people come and they're self-confessed. It's absolutely wonderful. Great stuff. Well, guys, what would really help as well is if I can find out just 2 more things from you. One, if you're a parent, and if you are, the ages of your children. And the other thing is if you work for yourself or you'd love to work for yourself.
Okay, so there's a few questions coming through there. I don't know if you can see them.
I'm seeing, yeah. And do you know what, guys? This is actually, these are all very normal. You know, COVID has been quite peculiar for a lot of people. Something that came up in a webinar yesterday is that people who didn't really have a nightcap started having a drink every night during COVID to help them go to sleep. But terrific. Okay, do you know what? I won't worry too much about because it might actually just take a little while to get. Oh, wow, great. Somebody anonymous but would like to work for themselves. That's fantastic. Oh, terrific. And we have a remote worker, 3 teenagers. Oh my goodness. This is great because that's exactly the kind of information that I want to get, so that I can actually make sure that I'm meeting all your own needs yourselves. So if I was to wave a magic wand, right? And if I said to you that you could have 30 minutes every day with no disruption from anybody else, write in the chat and the Q&A box, what would you do if you had a guaranteed 30 minutes every day with no disruptions from anybody else? And you can write short answers and don't even worry about typos or anything like that. Because I'd imagine that with many of you, one of the things that you find yourself saying often is that I just don't have time. I don't have time for myself. I don't have enough time to get things done. And there are so many things on the list that have to be done anyway. Parent at work, not self-employed. I would draw. I love it, Valerie. Relaxing, going for a walk. I love that somebody would sit in silence. Oh, I love these. Sit out in the garden with a nice cup of coffee. That is fantastic. Well, that's definitely my aim today, that I give you guys back half an hour of your time. Now, everything that somebody has said, right, other than the drawing, is it all falls under relaxation and rejuvenation and things for ourselves. What I'm getting from this is that whatever it is that you're doing at home, you need to be able to step back and just give yourself some time. So if you had time every day to do those things, that you could sit in silence, that you could go out in the garden with a nice cup of coffee, you could go for the walk, you could relax, you could draw. What would you do with an additional half hour, undisturbed, free every day. Might take a tiny bit more thinking time. Oh, I love that somebody used the word escapism. Love it. It means a step later on isn't going to be so difficult for you. La, la, la. Great. What's coming through, which again is very, very common, that there is a dearth of time for oneself. Just time for oneself to do things that are rejuvenating, that are relaxing. And we can definitely get that back, because again, you can just put a yes in the box or a no if it's never happened to you. But how often have you picked up the phone and all you actually want to do is check the weather? And 43 minutes later, you're looking at funny cat videos and you've watched 7 trailers and you've seen all the latest auditions to, The Voice or some program like that. Do you have a problem with picking up the phone and all of a sudden, that's it, time is gone? Now, how would you feel if instead of that happening, if you had actually done everything that you had told me up above that you'd love to have the time to do, but you could never seem to do it? Getting the time for a walk, getting the time to read, getting the time to sit outside. And do you equate the two? Do you see the connection between something which has become really, really habitual for most of us, and it preventing us from having the things in our day that we really want to have? And you can see as well, it's a really easy trade-off, right? Because the value that you get from certain things isn't actually, it's completely immeasurable when you think of what you would get from doing the out the garden bit, the relaxing bit, the going for a walk. I love that somebody said they always get distracted. That's actually one of the recommendations at the end, has that very word in it, right? So now I'm going to give you a list of suggestions and we'll work through them so we can find the ones that are best for you. But I want to kind of make you think just a little bit more for a minute, right? What is the big dream? So some of you have already expressed that you'd love to start working for yourself, that you would perhaps like to do other things, or maybe you're doing something at the moment, but you would love other opportunities. Perhaps you'd like to speak on this very webinar. You would love a time in several months' time when you're the person speaking to all these women. Perhaps you have an idea and you want to get it out there to the world, but you're not sure. Maybe you want to write a book. I want you to think for a moment and pop in the chat what it is, what the big dream is. Or even if you don't want to put it in the chat, write the fact that yes, you have one. Or if it's, I just have enough time for today. I just have enough time to get through the day, to get everything done that I need to do. And I couldn't tell you the last time I had a chance to think about a big dream. One of the ladies here is saying looking for a new job and can't seem to switch off from looking for jobs. Great. I love seeing some of the dreams on here. Now, one of the very, very big things about a digital detox is, if you imagine some of the dreams that you have, some of the things you want to achieve, how do you get from here to there? It's not going to happen without a digital detox, to be honest. It's not going to happen without us taking control of our lives, carving out time for ourselves. This is the biggie about today. It's about carving out time for ourselves, right? Because something that Karen alluded to in sort of giving me a bit of a bio about me one of the things that I feel very, very, very strongly is that all of us, that's all of us here, me, Karen, and all of you on here, right? We are all supposed to step up and be great. Right now, there is a shape of greatness, and the only person to fill it is you, and you, and you, and you, and Karen, and myself. And if we don't step up, that shape of greatness is going to be missing from the world. Things that we're supposed to do, people whose lives we're supposed to touch, it's going to be missing unless we step up and be great. And come here, when you're a mom and a worker and just trying to get through life, particularly in times like this when we have added things to worry about, it can be difficult to find time for greatness. And I really hope that by the end of this session, all of you are going to be so determined that you're going to make time for you to step up and be great. Okay, so what I want you to do is for a moment think, right? How am I going to feel when I have that dream, when it's realized? So the person who's looking for work, when you have that dream role, person who wants to speak in a webinar, when it's finally here and you're speaking on the webinar, the person who wants to draw and paint, whatever it is that your dream is, how are you going to feel? If you can encapsulate it in a few words for yourself, pop it on a post-it or pop it on a piece of paper, okay? And I want you to do that. Now, this is the only thing that's a challenge about not being able to see your faces, is that I can't see your faces, right? So I'm going to trust that you've all written the goal here, right? And that you have a feeling of it, right? And now I have to trust that you're all going to join me, okay? Because what we are going to do, I always get people moving in my workshops, right? And you might not be too excited when I say the word squats, 5 squats, but these are very special squats. And I would encourage you to do them and add them into your day, right? These are 5 squats of ecstatic, elated emotions. So the emotions, the way that you're going to feel when you've realized that dream or that goal that you've just been talking about, right? I want you now to imagine it, and don't let me be the foolish person here by myself, okay? I want to know that in all of your individual homes, you're doing it with me. We're going to do the 5 squats. What are they? Of ecstatic, elated emotion. So we're going to encapsulate in our bodies the feeling when you've achieved those goals, right? So when you actually do the squat, when you come up, what I want to see is the elated, happy, so ecstatic faces, okay? So whether that's, and I want to hear it, okay? I don't want me to be the only voice. So are we ready? I'm going to count you down. 3, 2, 1, and woo! And 2 more. I want to hear you. And 1 more. Okay. Now, you're going to take, yes, I told you, I'm going to get you moving. You're going to take that goal and you're going to pop it over on the wall. And the reason why you're going to do that is because you need to see it often. You need to feel it often so that it can happen for you, okay? Now, here's the thing why you need to see it often. These things were designed to distract and designed to keep us on as much as we possibly can. So we definitely don't need to feel in any way less than human or like weak if we feel like we get really distracted by this. There was, I mean, the title alone, there's a fabulous guy called Tristan Harris, and his job at Google was he was in charge of the ethics of human persuasion. He, after a period of time, felt it was so unethical that he left, and now he has a Center for Humane Technology. And when Facebook was very young, remember how everything, the brand colors are blue? Well, when you first got a notification, they were blue. But a female psychologist realized that our primitive brains recognize that red means danger, red means take action. And when they changed the colors of our notifications to red, the speed of interaction and the amount of interaction went up dramatically. It's all on purpose. So what we're having to break now are very, very clever and on purpose addiction methods, right? So one thing that I would advise you to write down, one thing that I would advise, I'm going to show you my screen, and over here, every method of contacting me is in there, every single method. Now, what you might notice is something is missing. And what's missing is notifications. There's not a single red notification bubble anywhere. Now, if I click into the apps themselves, you will see that I've actually got things to tend to, right? There are actually some notifications on there. However, none of them are dragging my eye. None of them are dragging my attention. It's only if I actually go into them that I then get to see the message. And then what that gives me is power and control. So now I've people warned at this stage, if you really need me, call. Because if I don't pick up, it means I'm engaged doing something else, but otherwise I will pick up. So nothing on there is urgent at all. I am in control of when I go to it. Some extraordinary research has been done. Like, many of us are old enough to remember our first screens back in the day in the office. Do you remember Clippy, the little safety pin guy that would come up on your screen and you'd be so excited when he popped up? Or if you got an internal email, the notification popped up. That used to be the extent of our digital distractions at work. And you got very adept at, dealing with phone calls while also dealing with other things. But now it used to be the case that when we got a digital distraction of some kind when we're actually working, it used to be that used to take us away from our work in terms of picking up your train of thought. It would maybe give you a couple of minutes of a disadvantage. Now they're proving that it can take up to 21 minutes for you to get back to where you were. So just to speak about a work perspective for a moment, if there are things you're wanting to do, particularly if you're working from home, I would highly recommend something called a power hour. So everything else is shut down. There are no apps open, obviously no Facebook, nothing like that. Your phone is on silent. You have a timer set for an hour. You have whatever it is. If you have a spare room, that there's a do not disturb. Everybody knows not to come into you. And there's a guy whose book I'm going to recommend later, but he even says, have a crown or a cap or something that says to everybody else in the house, Mom's busy, right? The cap is on, or the crown is on, or the fairy lights are on. You have earphones in and it's completely do not disturb. Power hours, where you power through, you are on your one train of thought the whole time. You won't get pulled out by other things. Another thing is to decide for yourself, at what stage are you going to deal with certain things during the day? Now, you will need to decide this for yourself, because some of us, depending on what kind of work you do or the kind of office, if you're working for yourself or you're working for corporate, there might be a pull. It might be that actually emails do need to be tended to particularly quickly. But otherwise, the very best thing to do is for you to carve out exactly when you're going to deal with certain things. Now, again, I kind of wish I had a screen, because normally I get sort of guilty faces when I say to people, if you had the opportunity of a weekend away with either your partner or your phone, which would you choose? And there is a right answer to that one, and it's not the phone. So this is not your lover. It doesn't belong in the bedroom in the slightest. In the slightest. There are many, many people, and what happens is very first thing in the morning, the first thing they reach for is the phone. Before they've gotten out of bed, they've lost time. Before they've gotten out of bed and been able to gather their own thoughts, their brains are absolutely full of the thoughts of the world. Whether you've gone onto a news site, whether you've gone onto Twitter, whether you've gone onto Facebook, whether you've gone onto the family WhatsApp, your head is all of a sudden cluttered entirely with everybody else's inputs and not yours. So I'm going to go to a list, and what I would like you to do is to write this. Now I will send it to Karen, but anyone that resonates in particular with you, these are all suggestions. Now I would suggest choosing one a day and putting it on a post-it and leaving it around several places, because you will find yourself going to the devices. For most of us, it tends to be the phone. Now, one thing I would highly suggest, take off the phone whatever it is you find yourself on the most. So whether that's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, Pinterest, no matter what it is, take it off the phone so that you have no choice. You have to go to the desktop. You have to go to the desktop and open it up. Okay? That's the first thing that I would recommend. And see what it feels like. Monitor yourself. You're your own experimentation lab, right? So realize, oh my gosh, I've just picked up my phone. There isn't anything I want to look at, but I was just going to pick it up and have a look at Facebook, for example. Actually monitor yourself. Have a little notebook or a school book that the kids are finished with and they didn't complete. Now, something else, actually where I am right now, I'm not sitting. I'm actually on a standing desk. And the kitchen table with a couple of board games on it and then your laptop on top of that will do, or an ironing board. But stand, if something is particularly problematic for you, like Facebook, again, write it on the post-it note for it to be your thing for the day. I will only scroll Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is. I will only scroll it while standing, because the chances are the unnaturalness of that will stop you. And you do not do this on a phone, because you'll find you can stand for hours. But actually, if it's here on a laptop, on a desktop, you'll actually notice it. Okay, that's one thing you can try. The other thing, which does feel a bit peculiar and you feel a bit naked, but it's very freeing, is making a decision that there's no social media whatsoever on a Sunday or a Saturday or another day of the week. And you probably will feel the pangs of withdrawal. Or get really clever. One of the books I'm recommending later, he says to build in the time for social media in your diary. So if it's not an enormous problem for you, what you'll do is decide, well, I'm not going to look at it at all until 10:30, and I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes. And I'm going to do the same thing again at 3 o'clock. Again, really good thing to try. And if you only give yourself 15 minutes, you're going to curate what it is you're looking at. You might find yourself unfollowing accounts, which is perfectly fine. You might find that actually certain things aren't as much of a big deal, and you would far rather get inspired on Pinterest than get down negative with news on Twitter, for example. Again, just note things for yourself constantly, right? Now, a big one is Netflix, especially because they've got that little thing and it says 3 seconds before the next episode, and how many times have you sat, and before you know it, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you've seen an entire series of something, right? So decide in advance and you diarize it. You diarize it in your diary, what episodes you're going to watch and when you're going to watch them. And then for bonus points, if you decide to watch 2 episodes, for bonus points, you're going to pause it after the first episode and you're going to get up and do something like 20 squats, or you're going to unload the dishwasher or put down a load of wash, or you're going to prepare or bake something. The reason for doing things like this is that you're very deliberately and consciously doing things to break an addictive cycle, right? That's one thing. The second thing is the lack of movement, which we'll get onto later, which is another thing. Really, really big device-free dinners. Sometimes if we don't deal with this early enough, it gets really challenging when the children are teenagers and they've got phones of their own. But absolutely start having device-free dinners. You don't want the TV on. You don't want people on their phones. Have it so that dinner times are for conversation and not for phones. And of course, you have to lead by example on this one. Another thing is the phone, having a bed for your phone. So my daughter's pretty used to it by now. The Wi-Fi goes off at night. For myself, I try to have it so that after 9 o'clock, there's no devices, there's no screens, and I'll come into why later. So the last one is something that goes back to your dreams and the morning times. I've already alluded to the fact that you don't want to go on and all of a sudden be getting all of this information from outside, right? What I want you to write down and have a look at it later and tomorrow and keep looking at it and think, how is this relevant for you? Devices are deadly to my dreams, right? Devices are deadly to my dreams. Think about that. Just because of the way that they steal your time. Because particularly with the person who said that she sits outside, she'd like to sit outside, she'd like to just think in silence, a bit of escapism. When you've probably had this where you're being somewhere really random, like in the shower or out on a walk, and all of a sudden there's this eureka, and you want to get a piece of paper and write it down because you don't want that thought to leave. You've actually just felt like you've discovered something that's really important for you and your life. When we quiet everything else and we just start sitting there, it's almost like we become receptors for thoughts that are really deeply hidden, and they start bubbling up to the surface. And this is where magic happens, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about how these, all of them, have an effect on our sleep, and how things that we can do to help our sleep are actually things that we can do to achieve our dreams and goals and to achieve that greatness that I know every single one of you have inside of you. So a lot of you would probably have heard of blue light, right? All of our devices, that's the spectrum of light that they emit. And what they do is they basically go back through the eye to something tiny called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and it increases cortisol and lowers our melatonin. So melatonin is a sleepy hormone. So you want that to happen in the morning. This blue light, where we get it naturally, is outside. The morning light, now this is the amazing stuff. You know, in Ireland, particularly for, the winter months, it can feel really dark and dreary and grey, and it doesn't feel light. However, the light is measured in something called lux, and when you go outside between 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning and about 10 o'clock, the lux is incredibly high. And what it does is that it resets our circadian rhythm, right, which is really important because our clocks are actually out by about 15 minutes. So it resets the circadian rhythm. But importantly, it gets the melatonin away. If the melatonin stays, we feel sleepy and groggy in the morning. So you want the blue light in the morning, you want light exposure, you want the melatonin to go and the cortisol to naturally increase, okay? Now, because all devices emit blue light, this is where things are getting really problematic. I mean, any of us who are parents have definitely gone through that stage where you want your child to go to bed, but your child is hyper. They do not want to go to bed. And as adults, depending on how we use our screens, that's exactly what we're like on the inside to our brains. So our bodies and our brains, they're releasing what they need to release. They're releasing melatonin. They're giving all the messages that that's time for sleep. And what are we doing? We're bombarding our brains with the message that, no, it's morning time. It's time to get up and be energetic. Can you imagine the tug of war that's going on in our brains? It's incredibly challenging. Now, as a general rule of thumb, every hour on the phone, every hour on any device, so whether that's your TV, your laptop, the iPad or your phone, you are going to depress your melatonin for about half an hour. So you can see what happens, the catch-22. I'm not quite tired enough yet. I'm sort of feeling tired, but I'm really not. It's a no-win situation. It's a no-win situation. Now, there's something I want to show you. But these are really they help your eyes, but I don't want you to think that they're a free pass, right, for nighttime. So these are, believe it or not, even though they look normal, these are blue light blocking glasses. And these are the heavy duty ones. These are the ones that make me look like Bono. So there's an Irish company, Amber Eyewear, the fantastic boyfriend and girlfriend team, block out approximately 55% of the blue light, almost 100% of blue light. I have both of these. I will use these in the afternoon so that my eyes don't get particularly tired. And I will read with these at night or watch a movie if we're watching a movie early. I'll use those because I want to give my brain the most of an advantage that I can. However, I don't want you to think that these are get out of jail free card, because the other thing that you're getting from all of the devices is you're getting a lot of stimulation. You're giving your brain a lot of stuff to think about before bed. And what do we really want our brains to be thinking about before bed? We want them to be thinking about our dreams, our goals, the things that we want to achieve. And you only do that if you silence the other voices. Now, when I do programs for people, we have what we call morning rituals and nighttime rituals, right? And this is where I'm giving you all the gift of those things that we spoke about in the beginning, the half hours, the things that you want to do if you had half an hour spare. So when you protect your sleep, you're getting those gifts. You are getting the opportunity to take time for yourself, to relax, and to work on your dreams. So the kind of things I advise everybody that you're off all of the devices at least an hour before bed, right? So you have an hour. Now, it does mean that you end up being a much more organized person because you'll probably potter and do little things around the house and things that might have been undone. But you'd also be listening to, inspiring webinars and podcasts or Audible books. You could take the time to meditate or do some breathing exercises, maybe some gentle stretches before bed, a bath, a bath, or a chat with your spouse. Maybe you don't get enough time to really sit and chat. And the other thing is just to journal about yourself and what it is that you want to achieve. Then when you go off to sleep and you wake the next morning, again, the same thing, right? The devices are deadly to my dreams. So you're not going to go on them. You're not going to go on them, and you decide what time. So if you wake up at 6, maybe you don't want to go on them until 9, 10. You start off even with that. If it's the very first thing you reach for in the morning, then start off with 30 minutes that you're not going to go onto your phone for 30 minutes, okay? And see what difference the 30 minutes makes to you. Even if it's if you're very new, you can ask me in the Q&A in a bit, but if you're very new to the idea of meditating or breathing techniques and things like that, we can definitely talk about it. But just start with a book and get yourself a really nice notebook and just start thinking about your life. Where would you like to be? What would you like to do? What would it feel like if you achieved that? What's the step that gets you from here to here? If you said that you're looking for a new job, what are the areas that you would like to work in? And if there's skills you're missing, how can you get those skills? Who are the people you admire in that area? Could you shadow them? Could you reach out to them? Could you find out? Just start putting these kind of things out there. The same with if you wanted to be a speaker of any kind. Are there skills that you're lacking? How will you get those skills? Are there nice, easy ways that you can get to speak to maybe a lovely supportive bunch of friends that would come around to your house and that would be really supportive and that would listen to you talk and give you feedback and help build your confidence? We don't get to think about these things unless we give ourselves time to think about these things. And this is where you're going to get the time to think about it. It's all of this, the first hour or so in the morning, the last hour or so at night. Now, if you do have children, reading's amazing. I bet I'm not the only person with like a big pile of books that I'm dying to get into. It's worth thinking about things that you do all the time. So maybe there's a TV program you always watch and just think, well, what's more beneficial to me? Reading this book and learning something and applying it, and that it brings me closer to my dreams, or that it gives me some relaxation time because I love this author, or watching this thing on TV. We're all individuals, so it's going to differ for all of us. But it's the key thing is just to be asking. It's just to be aware. Because most of us are operating on this level where there's a huge list of things that we have to do every single day before there's any time to think about things that we want to do for ourselves. And the last thing that I want to say before going over to Karen for questions is mostly when I say it to moms, and I am a mom, I'm a mom of 2 teens, mostly when I say to moms and their reaction is just, you want me to get up earlier? Are you crazy? I promise you, I absolutely promise you that you are going to, within a couple of weeks, you're going to be waking up before the alarm. You're going to be really excited that this is your time. It's quiet. You can go out with a cup of coffee and your notebook or something that you're reading, but it's your time before not only the rest of the world invades, but before your children invade, your spouse invades, before any demands are made on you. I can imagine, I can't see the faces, but I can imagine the, oh, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I promise you, this is guaranteed to give you an incredible start to all your days. And I want you to have an incredible start to all of your days because I know all of you and myself, we all have dreams. They're all great and we are all capable of that greatness, but we have to create space for ourselves to make it happen. So I'm going to hand over to Karen and see how we're doing on questions and all sorts.
That was amazing, Treasa. Really so much learnings there and so many tips. Really, really good. I personally think I'm going to frame devices are deadly to my dreams and put it up in my house somewhere. Going to do that because I have 2 teenagers as well. They're obviously, the phone is an extension of their arm, really.
Yeah.
Never let it down. And I remember actually about 2 years ago, my niece was doing her leaving cert and she wanted to do medicine.
Wow.
And she's a very bright girl, really, really clever.
Yeah.
And I asked her, like, what, she was coming up to the exams, and I said, what's standing between you and doing medicine? Like, she knew she could do it. And she said, my phone.
Wow.
But she wasn't prepared to give it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now she's doing a great course in college and everything, but she didn't get medicine, But I was just thinking, God, you wouldn't give up the phone for a couple of months for the dream, So,
and it just goes back to the addiction. I mean, we're all familiar with the language with the drug addict, and this is, and imagine they've been created to be addictive.
Yeah.
But we're going to break it, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be in control.
start selling those frames of device they're deadly to my dreams. I love the bit as well about, you know, we all have in it to be great, you know, we've got to make the space. And it's so true. I think, you know, our minds are so cluttered, you know, and we're all going around, particularly at the moment with COVID-19 and confinement and everything. We're all going around with so much going around in circles, and so much is uncertain. And, you know, we're all, you know, kind of having morbid fascination with it as well. And so we're all checking in on it. But I think our minds we're all tired, I think. And I see that with everybody I know nearly, you know, because of the corona coaster we've all been on. But also our minds are just full. You know, and nobody has had a holiday really. No. You know, we've all been on this this treadmill, like, you know, so there's some really great tips there. Like if you don't find the time, you're not going to be great. I thought that was great as well. You know, and writing down your goal and looking at it, you know, that vision. If you have that vision and work towards it, and put energy into it, that, you know, it is going to happen. Like if you, as you said, you get the devices out of the way. Some really good stuff there. I'd love to get those tips if I could off you, Treasa, and send them on to Indeed,
absolutely. I've put them into a nice little Canva design so that people can, you know, put them somewhere where they can see them. Very
good. So we'll just pop into the questions and answers here, Treasa, and see if there's any questions here. So we have one here. What can I do when my boyfriend is scrolling all the time online? What can I, my boyfriend is in bed, and somebody has said here, your phone is like a jealous boyfriend. What can I do when my boyfriend is on the phone scrolling till late?
It's important to have a conversation. You know, don't forget that almost everything we do in life is either as a result of it being a habit or simply as a result of ignorance. We literally don't know better. And so anyone listening in today, obviously they know a little bit better than they did, you know, an hour ago, and have a conversation. You know, literally starts with dinner today. It's like, you know what, these are some of the things that I heard about today. I want to chat about them with you. And I think it's not just the practicality of somebody else's activity is going to have an effect on your sleep. One of the reasons, by the way, that we turn off the Wi-Fi at night is because they emit electromagnetic frequencies, and the EMFs actually have an impact on your melatonin. So there's a direct impact on your sleep. So if you're trying to sleep and your other half is scrolling, the EMFs are going to have a little bit of an impact, which you can mention. But the other thing is that, particularly if it's a partner, the disconnect with intimacy, you know, there really is a disconnect with intimacy. And feel free to say to the person, you know, this is not your lover, I am, you know, but we really have to keep them out of the bedroom as much as we possibly can. I mean, even to the stage that, you know, I'm a big fan of certain meditation apps, but I will actually just put on a big blanket and sit outside and do it, and then go in. And then if I need some help getting to sleep, I'll actually do breathing instead. But definitely have a chat with your partner about the fact that it's unhelpful for both of you. And, you know, feel free to pull the card of, you know, I feel like you love your phone more than time with me, you know? Because it is, I mean, relationships are better when you can go off to sleep at the same time, and spooning or cuddling or whatever, or just both of you actually going into the sleep space at the same time.
Absolutely, yeah. Actually, my husband works away a lot. Actually, he's away for about 9 months of the year. And somebody asked me there recently, how do you manage without him? Like, and how does it go? And I said, it made me think, you know, I can live without my husband for 9 months of the year. You know, I miss him and everything, and my kids miss him, but I couldn't live without my phone for 9 months. You know, something wrong there, like, isn't there? You know, but your phone is not your lover. I like that. So another question here. Have you any books you could recommend, Treasa?
There are two that I particularly enjoyed. So one, and again, I'll put it through in an email to you. Great. One is by a guy called Nur Ayal, and his book is Indistractable. and he has so many great tips. From his book, what I took was the fact of wearing, and funny enough, it was far before COVID, but he was talking about if you're working from home, the chances are your children have some kind of funny, dress up headgear around, or fairy lights or something. And he said, but make sure that there's something that even somebody small can understand, to not be distracted. And the other thing is, he's the one that says, actually put in your diary precisely when you're going to go on for a social media break, and then when you're going to come off it. And so that's Indistractable by Nir Ayal. And the other is a guy called Cal Newport, who's incredibly interesting because he is the only 38-year-old I know who has zero social media whatsoever. And he's not even on LinkedIn. He's on nothing professional. He has 2 email accounts. One is for all of he's a university professor. So one is for everything that's academic, and the other is specifically to do with his book writing. So the first one was deep work, but the one that's very particular to this is digital minimalism. So I think because he's somebody who has never been addicted and he's talking about it from the other side, it gives a very, very interesting perspective. And again, people will get things it's very provocative. It really makes you think about what it is you're missing out. And funnily enough, one thing that he did, which again, I just love it, is sticking in podcasts and deciding to walk if you can, or cycle, instead of taking a car or public transport. So you're getting in quite a lot of movement and exercise, but you're also, you're listening to something that is productive or inspiring or spiritual, or something that is actually going to inspire you rather than deflate you.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, we'll send on the names of those books as well to everyone that's on here. Another question from Valerie, one of our regulars. How to get rid of the red notifications on the apps? Could you walk us through that?
So when you need to go into the apps themselves. Now, they're quite persistent and annoying. So I will regularly get a message from any number of them saying, oh, would you like to be kept up to date with notifications? Would you like to know? No, and I just keep pressing no. So when you go into anything, so for particular, when you go into WhatsApp and you go to settings, actually, yes, when you go into settings, you'll see notifications, and literally you can choose them all to say, no, I don't want to see a preview, I don't want to see notifications. You just unpress them all. The same with everything, with your Gmail, with all the individual apps. You can turn off the notifications for them all.
Okay, so brilliant. I'm definitely going to be doing that. Great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, if anyone else has any questions now, they can pop them in there into the questions and answers feature. Just another one. Is there any apps that you'd recommend, Treasa?
Here's the funny thing. There are actually apps that monitor the amount of time that you're on, and there are apps that will, you insert something like Facebook, for example, and you set parameters around, so it will stop you actually opening particular apps or particular websites. Now, the reason why I don't recommend them is because I feel like there's remember when you were really little and you had stabilizers on your bike? And then you get to a certain stage of cycling and balance and the stabilizers come off, right? So I would far rather that we make very concrete decisions around our behavior rather than relying on another app to stop us using, because even using those apps is going to require more screen time. And it's very amusing because it's, I admire people who create things, but it's extraordinary. As soon as it became a problem that people were spending too much time online, then all of these young developers created solutions. But I'm never in favor of a solution that uses the same issue. Right? So we are adults, we are amazing, and we can do this. They're all just habits. That's all they are. And we're just going to replace habits that don't serve us with habits that are going to help us to become great.
Very good. So Maura is asking, can you advise the name of the shop you can buy the glasses in and that help with the blue light?
Oh yeah, so they're online. They have pop-ups up in Dublin, and you can buy them in Brown Thomas, but I think that's just in Dublin. I'm not sure about Cork. I'll have to ask them. But it's Amber, AMBR eyewear.com. And when I finally met them in person a couple of years ago, I said, oh, listen, I've been recommending your brand in all of my workshops where it's relevant. And I said, look, you're a small company. I'm not asking to be an affiliate, but would you do a discount? So if you get 2 pairs, you get a 20% discount when you put in Treasa when you're buying them. And I'll be super honest, I really like the couple. They're so lovely. But the other thing is they're the first in Ireland to develop these. They look really great. And others have jumped on the bandwagon, including a rugby player who I won't name. And I think it was just jumping on as a trend. And so I feel very sort of defensive about this couple. And, they're really terrific. And as I say, like, I use them. I've been using them for years. So that's why I recommend them. They're great.
Okay, and can you get them with prescription, Treasa, do you know? Or?
You can get them with prescription, yeah. Nice. So I'm normally, I'm short-sighted. So depending on what I'm doing, I'm a glasses wearer or a contacts wearer. So yeah, you can get them with prescription as well.
That's very interesting, yeah. Okay, there's no more questions coming through here, but Rachel just made a lovely comment here that it was a very good presentation and she really liked the interaction, so making us really think seriously about our goals and to see how devices interrupt that. Excellent tips on how to create that space, and then, as you say, the magic will happen. Yes. I think that's a nice note to finish off on, Treasa.
Well, I'm just very curious about one thing. I do want to know, was I the only person enthusiastically doing the 5 squats of ecstatic elation emotion, or were you all joining in with me?
I did them anyway, Treasa.
You did them anyway. Thank you, Ms. Hardy. Thank you. But you know what, just a tip, if you're having a day and you're feeling, like, just one thing to know about emotions, right? They are energy in motion. And quite often, even if you think of the words like, oh, I feel stuck, I feel stagnant, I'm a little bit down. A lot of these literally have to do with our physicality. And when you get up and you just move around the place, now it could be squats are brilliant, particularly if you start being all ecstatic with them. But even, even to do big arm circles, you're just getting things moving around your body. And sometimes, particularly if you're trying to write something or something at work is just a bit challenging, just moving your body around a little bit is going to be really, really helpful.
Yeah, and that's so important now, as well as we're all remote working and you're not getting up and down as much as you would possibly be in an office. It's really important that we get up and move around and force yourself, have an alarm going off every hour to run around the house 5 times or whatever it is, run up and down the stairs or do your 5 ecstatic squats.
Making a cuppa, I say to people, when you're making a cuppa, it's a great time to do some calf raises, and then when you think of, holding in my core and I'm really going to clench my glutes, and, it's great. You can get these little snippets of movement in as well,
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
Listen, a big thank you to Treasa today for a really interesting presentation. I think we all took a lot away from it today. Thank you for your time. Treasa's giving her time pro bono here today. So where can people find you, Treasa? Online.
If people are on LinkedIn, do please connect with me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people, particularly if they're nearby. And on Facebook, I'll send it through to Karen, but Revolution Project Limited, because in the next, in August, I am going to have 2 different kind of challenges that will be free for the week. And one will be about the light, actually. So it will be about getting, getting out in the morning, and the other will be Zumba related. So there'll be 20 minutes of Zumba every day. So yeah, there's a website underway at the moment. Ditch the old one, but at the moment, yeah, Facebook and LinkedIn is the place to find me.
I'll get those links off you to send on to the attendees here as well. So that's great.
Lovely.
So that's a wrap for us today, guys. And as I said, a huge thank you to Treasa. It was really, really great. We're going to take a break now for a couple of weeks because a lot of people are staycationing and taken a break. So we're going to take a short recess, and we'll be back then probably early September with our weekly webinars. So yeah, so if you could give us a follow, share, or like as well. We're on all social media platforms. We are Employflex, and that would be a nice way of giving back to us. So as I said, over and out from us. Thank you, Treasa.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me, Karen.
Thank you, and we'll see you all in September.
Bye.